Don't you cry no more.
Hey guys! So this video marks the first one of my Supernatural recaps. I haven't done any this year, but I figure I'd start because now we have the guarantee of season 12, so I can continue this next year. So the first few episodes I'm going to look at are the ones that are right before the season 11B mid-hiatus, which are The Vessel and The Mat, which are season 11, episode 14 and 15. So this one is going to be a little longer than the usual ones. Little warning, this is a little Destiel bias with my recap and analysis, so if that's something that you're really turned off to, please leave now. If you're okay with talking about it a little bit, or even if you acknowledge the friendship and you'd like to see where this is going, stay, because I'm not a crazy person. With The Vessel, it aired on February 17th, 2016, and it got a 9.3 rating on IMDb. So what I first like to do is talk about the press release that they release and kind of the promotional stuff, and then compare it to how the episode actually is, because it's pretty different. Really interesting, because they usually try to advertise a lot of stuff that you think you're gonna like, and then the episode turns out to be completely different, but it's still awesome, or the opposite. So here's what the press release said for The Vessel. Lucifer sends Dean back in time. That was the big headline. Here's what the rest of the press release said. Hoping to find a powerful weapon to defeat Amara, Dean convinces Castiel, who is still Lucifer, to send him back to the last reported sighting of the Hand of God. Lucifer sees the potential in getting his hands on the weapon, so he goes along as Cass sends Dean to 1944, to the fated submarine mission that sank the Hand of God. Meanwhile, continuing his charade with Sam while they wait for Dean to return, Lucifer plans his next move. So, a few things that we need to clarify about this press release. Number one, Castiel, who still is Lucifer, can you just call him Cassifer? Or Lustiel? Like, Lustiel is kind of stupid. I prefer Cassifer, so that's what I'm going to be using throughout this little recap review thing. Okay, number two. The powerful weapon to defeat Amara is the Hand of God. So in the press release, we didn't really get an idea of what the heck this is, because we know that they need some kind of weapon or some kind of edge, but the press release was like, so we're trying to find this powerful weapon on a submarine, and it really didn't give the full impact of what this is. This is part of Ark of the Covenant, or at least this particular Hand of God is, and so because it was touched by the Hand of God, it contains some of God's power, or the Nazi necromancers, which we actually have encountered before. So if you guys remember the thing with the Jews and the Golem and the Nazi necromancers that were trying to continue their little feud going on, and we learned in one of the previous episodes from season 11 that they had a station of men of letters in a European sector. And so we had some representation in Europe. We also had Nazi necromancers that we were trying to fight against. So combining those two things about the Men of Letters history, we have the World War II Hand of God mystery. And what we also don't get is how hard it was to find. We completely skip over all of the work that Sam had to do to find this, just to find an idea of another weapon. And when he got the lore of the Hand of God, he had to go search through all of the history to find out if there actually was some. And then he went through the Nazi necromancers thing and the Men of Letters files, and then he finally found stuff on the internet. Like, that was a huge research process, and Sam did not get enough props for that. So nice job for you, Sam. Also, going along with the history about the Men of Letters, we learn that the main character in this little history lesson is Delphine, who is actually a femme de lettres, or a woman of letters, which we didn't actually think existed. We thought that Charlie just made that up. But good news is the Men of Letters weren't as sexist as they seem to be, because in World War II, obviously, it was like an all-hands-on-deck kind of situation, and we needed some more people who were enthusiastic about the lore. So this it kind of reminisces the last time travel episode, which was the Wild West back in season 6, where we know the fate, we know where the cult was, and Dean wanted to go in, use it, and get out. So this is kind of along the same lines, where he wants Cass to send him into the submarine get the weapon and then get out before the submarine sinks. Unfortunately, Dean did not account for the fact that they are all humans, and Dean has this really, really bad guilt trip with people that he can't save. So we'll get to that. Okay, the other thing in the press release that really didn't add up was the fact that they were waiting for Dean to get back, and it wasn't really a waiting. It was like, oh my god, we lost Dean, we need to get him back. Because when Cassifer sent Dean back, which only Cassifer could have done because Lucifer still has his wings because he didn't fall from heaven, he was already in the cage, so he still has his wings, whereas every other angel does not. So he's able to use his wings to bring Dean back in time to the submarine. And unfortunately, Delphine is an awesome femme de lettres, and she has warded the entire submarine, including a warding on her skin that's connected to her life. So, sorry, angels can't come on the sub as of right now. Speaking of Cassifer, he has not been doing a great job as ruler of hell since he took over and made Crowley his dog. He really doesn't care about the soul numbers, he really doesn't care how hell is running or any of his subordinates. All he cares about is, finding a way to defeat Amara so he can do his devil thing and run amok on the earth, and then probably continue his plans of defeating all the demons and all the humans because he hates them all. So really, he gets the weapons from his crypt, and of course there's nothing powerful enough there, and so luckily he gets a call from the Winchesters who have figured it out. And so he obviously wants to manipulate the situation and get the hand of God for himself. So the charade with Sam that's going on is really Lucifer just trying to pretend to be Cass. So earlier when he was in hell with Crowley, he said, "No barking, doggy," and then he's like, "Showtime," and then he went into the Castiel lower register and said, "Hello, Dean." And as we all know, that's a little hint at, Castiel and Dean's little connection, because that's what Cass always says. And the fact that that specific line is what we're connecting with this charade, that says a lot. So Sam finds a spell that could potentially get rid of the warding, and unfortunately he needs the power of an archangel, which is the reason why it has never been done before. And this would allow Lucifer to get on the sub despite the warding. His power could get past it. And obviously Sam thinks that this is Cass, and Cass is had his grace ripped out, had his wings burned off, had, a spell put on him, he's been weak for the past year, and he's like, yeah, even at full power, you ain't strong enough. And Cassifer is like, well, maybe we should try it anyway. And this leads to a funny thing where Sam, who is very reassuring towards Cass, which kind of hints at the fact that Sam knows that Dean and Cass really care about each other, he's like, don't worry, Cass, we'll get Dean back. And the fact that Sam really couldn't tell that this wasn't actually Cass makes me think that Sam was a little bit thick in this episode. Like, he is acting so un-Cass-like. Why can't you open your eyes and see that something is wrong? Even when he said, oh yeah, let's do again what got us into this mess. You're really bringing your A ideas today, Sam. Like, that was incredibly snarky and so un-Cass-like. How did Sam not be like, whoa, what the heck was that, man? And so when he said it instead of Dean or him, obviously a lot of people thought that he was referring to the hand of God, and Cass would have been more worried about Dean, and that's why he said him. However, I was listening to this Dean Cass podcast, and they theorized that Lucifer was just referring to Dean as an it because that he himself is a human who Lucifer despises, and so he would call the mud monkeys that he hates its, and so he could, their theory was that he was actually calling Dean an it, and then he corrected himself to him. So the fact that he was actually talking about Dean is another up in the Dean Cass poll, if you're keeping score. So the charade, Lucifer does not keep up at all because he realizes that Dean is the one with the connection to Amara, and really all he needs is him. And if he can overpower Dean with the hand of God, he really does not need to keep up this charade of being Cass, especially, if it's getting increasingly difficult to deal with Sam. So because Sam doesn't believe him when he's doing the spell, He's just starts laughing maniacally and says, "Why am I doing this? I don't need you anymore. All I need is Dean." Throwback to when Cass touched Bobby's soul in order to get Sam and Dean back from the past in season 6. Sam wants Cassifer to use his soul to get Dean because it'll give him a boost of power. And so Cassifer decides that it's a great idea to reach in and touch Sam's soul, but do it very uncarefully so that Sam explodes all over the wall, and so he doesn't have to deal with Sam anymore. Unfortunately, he underestimated the power of a pissed-off Seraph who loves the Winchesters, aka Cass, who is still in there despite Lucifer being kind of in control all the time. And when he threatens Sam, man, Destiel comes through, and he's like, "Nope, you are not killing Sam. Sorry, not today." And what he said to Sam was that he wanted to be of service, and that he could not let Lucifer go because we needed him to save Dean. Not that we need him to kill Amara, we need him to save Dean. That's what I care about right now. So the fact that Lucifer's way of pretending to be Cass is really just how he interacts around Dean and how his voice sounds when he's with Dean is evident from the very first time when he was rummaging through the bunker and he says, "Ugh, I have to deal with Dean," so he goes, "Hello, Dean." And obviously in this episode when he gets a phone call in hell. And so this is consistent with when he talks to Sam and he says, "I'm just gonna tell Dean, oh, no, wait, I'm going to switch my tone, because that's how Cass manipulates Dean, because they are just so in love." He goes, "Dean." So because that was like the indicator of the difference is Dean's name, that's just another example of how the writers are using their relationship as a key component in this whole Cassifer thing. Yay, Cass and Dean! This is my Cass pillow. Pretty cute. Also, that kind of hints at, the Destiel friendship, brotherly thing that has been developing, because as we all know, this really started out with Cass connecting with Dean and early, liking Sam that much. But of course, as the apocalypse went on, and, season 6, season 7, it's really been Dean that he's been dealing with, and the majority of his relationship problems with the Winchesters has been through Dean. And so the fact that, I think it was in season 9, after the whole Gadriel mess, that Sam and Cass really started having their friendship develop. But even still, it's Dean that calls Cass, and it's Dean that worries about Cass. And it just kind of enforces the idea that Cass does care about Sam, and that they do have a really good friendship if he's willing to risk becoming even weaker than he already was by using all of his energy to keep Lucifer from killing Sam. In accordance with Lucifer's plan, he retakes control of Destiel, uses the spell, goes back in time, which he ended up not really needing. Delphine was using the Hand of God at the time, and so she was going to blow herself and the German U-boat up. Theoretically, she would have been dead, and the warding would have been obsolete, and he would have gotten on the sub anyway. So a lot of this obsolete stuff is happening in this episode that kind of makes me go, okay, just come on, guys, come on. Let's get our logic down. Of course, nobody is thinking logically, because everything is, is so crazy, and everyone is worried about everybody else, and trying to keep up charades, and trying to make sure that no one dies. Unfortunately, people's that kind of motivation, which is new for season 11, or at least it's something that they're getting back to, is really saving each individual's lives. We're saving people and we're hunting things, so we value human lives. So of course, Dean down in the sub is warning the entire crew, being really cute in a sailor uniform, BTW, and telling Delphine, "I am on a mission from the future." Okay, that's a little cliche, but let's continue. So unfortunately, the warding is connected to Delphine's blood, her heart, her life, and so she has to be killed in order for the warding to stop working. Now, here's the thing. You're on a fated submarine, which means you're going to die very soon. If she dies, then Cass can get back on and you can get off. She's going to die anyway. The entire sub is going down and you can't change the future. So Dean, why are you so worked up with the fact that you can't kill her? Because she's literally going to die anyway. God, that annoys me so much. I was like, Dean, what the heck? Come on! Not like you haven't killed anybody before. Dean wants to save everybody, and he wants to save the ship, so he theorizes that, oh, maybe if I use the hand of God, maybe that'll save everybody and we'll have a happy ending. Unfortunately, the German U-boat is coming in pretty quickly, so Delphine uses the hand of God, and, it makes her glow, and the Ark of the Covenant, really powerful, and it kind of explodes, and as we learn later, it kind of blew a hole up in the German U-boat, so the sub sank, but so did the Germans, so we going down, you're coming down with us, buddy. So good for Delphine for that. Unfortunately, later we find out that because she used it, the Hand of God is only kind of a one-shot deal because you can only harness the power of God from the little object at the one time, because it's just like take the power and you're good, you're gone. The only positive thing out of revealing that this is Lucifer is we know that he didn't get the power of the Hand of God, and Dean is like completely shocked and just ugh, it's awful when he comes back and Sam's like, that's not Cass, no Cass. Oh God. It was so horrible. Like, his speech afterwards was like, it was hard to be your enemy, but working with you was awful. Really funny line. I had to don this face of angelic constipation. Just the writers playing fun with Misha Collins. But his face is so cute. So this moment is happening on a dock, and obviously they're in Kansas, so they're not really near any water, so they would have had to go somewhere in order to have this moment. But because it's on a dock and it's, it has the water theme, it has the flowing, changing, kind of sailing away kind of thing that's been through the whole season, it's a pretty good setting for this little bromance. And the message here is like kind of feeling useless and just a witness to a whole bunch of death and destruction. Earlier in this episode, Dean says that he described himself as the least valuable player on the board, because since he can't defeat Amara, Sam's going to be the one to do it, and so he's really the most important one who needs to be saved. And Dean kind of feels like he's useless, or that he's expendable. Why does that sound familiar? Oh, that's because Cass felt the same way. Parallels. So Dean understands him. Oh. So because Dean is kind of feeling like that, it's reflective of the submarine, or the vessel title of the episode. I didn't get that until much later, so kind of felt a little stupid about that. But anyway, so because Dean witnessed a whole bunch of death and destruction of everybody that he met on the submarine, he felt like he was just a witness, and he couldn't do anything. He was useless and powerless in stopping this huge evil from happening. Obviously being paralleled with the Amara trouble. But this is also paralleling what he's discovered about Cass, because he knows that he needs to get Cass back. He said, that's what we're going to do, It's like, not even a question. Of course we're going to save Cass. Of course we're going to defeat the devil, because we need him back. It was really hard to defeat the devil before, and so he may be feeling that it's because this is going to be hard, and because he is going to be the expendable player here, he's probably going to have to watch his friend suffer for a long time before anything even happens. And so he's kind of feeling that, being a witness to somebody else's pain right now. And Dean, for the record, still has the Hand of God, even though it's a dud now. So maybe we can get God's power infused in it again. Maybe he's going to keep it as, a memento from what happened, or something related to Cass. We don't really know. But we know that that could be something. So the last thing I want to mention is a lot of the heart imagery that's come up throughout this season. I mean, we had the follow your heart thing. We had the Love Hurts episode, where people were ripping each other's heart out, and out, the deepest, darkest desire of your heart. And then this episode, we have the warding being connected to her, and being connected to her life and her blood. And so because we have a lot of this heart imagery, this has got to be leading to something. It's got to be like power that's connected, and that you can't escape, and that you either have to die for, or, sacrifice yourself. That has to do with how you feel and how you want to do what your heart tells you to do. For a lot of the Destiel shippers, everyone's like, be with Cass. But that could just mean, doing what you think is right, doing right by Cass, trying to, be true to how you feel about everyone and how you feel about the situation with Amara and everything else with Lucifer. So that was a really great episode. A lot of great themes, a lot of great action. The story was perfect. It was interesting. It was different. It had a lot of emotion with the brothers and Team Free Will. So A+, man. 9.3 is great rating. Awesome. Can't wait to see how this stuff plays out later. So moving on to the next episode, episode 15, which aired on February 24th, 2016. This is called Beyond the Mat, and it got an 8.5 rating on IMDb. So pretty good. Not the best, but I thought it was a pretty decent episode. So let's compare the press release to what actually happened, shall we? The title was about The Miz, the wrestler, who was actually a real professional wrestler, being on the show. And then the description was, Dean sees an obituary for a wrestler he and Sam used to watch when they were kids, and deciding that they need a break from tracking the darkness, the brothers decide to attend the funeral. And the funeral's full of wrestlers, including Sean Harley, who is The Miz, new a hotshot wrestler with a fiery temper, and veteran Gunnar Lawless. Sam and Dean attend the match to relive one of their childhood memories, but when another wrestler turns up dead, playtime becomes work. So a few things were definitely wrong in this press release. Number one, tracking darkness. As Dean said, they got Jack on Amara and even less Jack on how to save Cass. So they're literally doing nothing. They are just burnt out and they need a break. They're not tracking anything. The other thing was veteran Gunnar Lawless. They literally just threw out these names that did not really explain the meaning behind them. Turns out Gunnar Lawless is a huge part of Dean's motivation for going there and staying, and a huge part of the plot of the entire episode. And the other thing was their childhood memories. These childhood memories were not that happy, so I'm not the biggest fan of John Winchester, but I don't hate him. I think he was, having a hard time as a father. He was doing the best he can with what he thought was right, even though some of that may have been misguided. So, unfortunately, we got a parallel at the match with this drunk guy, with this kid who's like, hey, beard's cheap, kid's happy, boom, parenting. Not that was John's thing, but he's probably having a hard time actually getting his kids to be like kids, and so this was one of the things that he could, use as a cop-out to be like, hi, I'm a good dad, I'm doing good things with my kids, yeah, fun. The Gunnar Lawless parallel that everybody was really talking about is with Rio, who was, she was a caller of a match, and she used to manage some of the wrestlers, and Dean is a total fanboy for Gunnar, which is parallel to Sam having a huge crush on Rio. Apparently she was his first crush, and Dean got his first B&E sneaking into somebody else's pay-per-view to watch him wrestle. So this goes along with the whole Dean could be bi thing. I'm not sure if that was the intention, but it's suggestive that, Dean is, super excited about this wrestler, and he completely ignores other women who are around him and goes right for this guy. They're comparing scars, like, he's got a shot ready for him. Like, I think I've read this fanfic. The minor thing that the press release got wrong is they said another wrestler turns up dead. The wrestler that they went to the funeral for was dead, but the next guy who turned up dead was the drunk guy at the match. It wasn't a wrestler, although Rio did describe them as cursed because this kept happening wherever they went. So they obviously just put the word wrestler in there because it would be kind of stupid to be like, one of the fans at the wrestling match. So, just little detail. And so playtime becomes work. Here's the thing. Playtime actually extended to more playtime because Dean went drinking with the guys. He had a lot to drink, and Dean is, in his late 30s now, and he can't hold his liquor as well as he used to, and he was kind of messed up the next day, so playtime still kind of extended. So the work part of the job was finding out that this is a case, because the body was marked, and Sam did a lot of research because he is so awesome at that, completely the answer that could take forever, and Sam is just that good. and he found that the markings were to concentrate and extract the essence of a man. So we're obviously talking souls. Dean immediately goes to demons and demon deals. So puts holy water in the shots, and well, none of the wrestlers are demons. So back to Gunnar Lawless, we find out that he's actually working for a demon, because this demon is now outsourcing soul collecting because Lucifer's just doesn't care and Crowley's his bitch. So because Gunnar Lawless was young and desperate and misguided, he sold his soul, and now he's kind of a slave to this demon to collect souls for him. One of the souls he was collecting was Sean Hartley, his arch rival in the wrestling ring, and he was offered, give me your soul and I'll make you great. And he said, absolutely not. If you're a demon, then there's a hell, and that means there's a heaven, and I'm not going to do anything to screw up those chances. So I kind of liked how, even though he was a hot-tempered character and very young, he actually did stand up to a demon, and he was actually a great character to look at. Unfortunately, he didn't end so happy. But luckily the Winchesters show up, as they do, and talk to Gunnar and gank the demon. And unfortunately, then Gunnar was being hunted by hellhounds. Dean offered him the gun to make it really quick, but Gunnar said, no, my bed, it got a lie in it. And so one of the themes at the very end of the episode was how people who are young and desperate make deals or do things that are misguided and they then regret it. And that obviously parallels with what's happening with Cass. And so at the very end, we get that keep grinding line that we got a few weeks back. And Dean says, we just got to keep grinding no matter how hard it gets, no matter what we got to do. We just got to keep grinding. And no one's going to get in our way, and that's how we're going to win. And, that keep grinding line, it's like, are we watching a fanfic? Like, again, what are we talking about? So connecting that to another line in this episode brings me to the last press release problem, was that they completely forgot to mention anything about Cass, Cassifer, Hell, any of that, which is like a huge B plot of the episode. So Cassifer is now directing all of his demons to try to find a new hand of God, search every house, every outhouse, every farmhouse, every doghouse. And speaking of doghouse, Crowley is still his dog, making him lick the floor. Also a little suggestive. And so he tries to trick Crowley by using his right-hand woman Simmons, who's kind of like Rowena, got a crush on him. And she tries to tell him, you're Crowley, you're the king of hell, you can totally beat Lucifer. All the demons are supporting you, which is in fact a lie. And Crowley leads her to the hand of God that he actually has. It's the Rod of Aaron. So he's kind of got his suit, and there's a symbolic blue flower above him as he gets his suit back on. So it's like, yeah, Crowley is back, baby. I'm the king of hell. And unfortunately, Lucifer shows up. Sorry, you were tricked. It's getting a little phallic in here with the rod. Fanfic, again, this whole episode is a fanfiction. Crowley decides to double-cross Lucifer again, and he takes the hand of God for himself, and he uses his power to try to ice the devil, but he actually got Simmons instead, because she's in love with him, and she, threw herself in the line of fire. He just kind of got knocked back a little, and Crowley is like, oh crap, I can't use this again. Sorry, hand of God is kind of a one-shot deal. So Crowley disappeared before Lucifer could actually get to him, so Crowley is now on the run. We don't know whether he's going to go to the Winchesters or do something else, try to get some demons on his side, who knows. But Lucifer is now out for Crowley, and another hand of God is gone. Some final questions and parallels are Sam, again, reassuring Dean that, we're going to save Cass, everything's going to be okay, which is parallel to last episode when he did the same thing for Cass when Dean was missing. He said, don't worry, we're going to get him back. Because, of course, Sam knows how important they are to each other and how they're both going to worry and go crazy. So, Sam kind of understanding that is another Dean and Cass relationship theme going on. So questions I have going forward post-hiatus are what exactly it means for Destiel to be possessed, because, he is an angel, so it's probably not going to be the same as possessing a human, even though his vessel is technically his, because this vessel has been Cass's 100%, because Jimmy was never in this particular vessel, because it got remade by God or whoever. So Castiel is kind of weak, but as we know from season 9 with Gadriel, angels can kind of heal a vessel, so is Cass going to get healed, or is he going to be even more weak after this whole shtick with Lucifer? Second question is, how the heck are they going to save him? So we got two options. Option number 1 is Castiel gets enough power to reject Lucifer, and then they have to deal with Lucifer some other way. Option number 2 is Cass gets out of his vessel, and then they attack Lucifer in said vessel. So Cass could either go in Claire or go in Dean. That could be a way for Dean to like make amends or something. If either of them said yes, and then they could, like, say if they had an archangel blade, they could stick him with that and kill him just like Lucifer killed Gabriel. So the question, how do we kill this archangel? How do we kill the devil and still keep Cass from getting hurt? So let's see if we can answer these questions as we go on.